Welcome to the Couples Academy show, guys. We are excited to have you. It's another great morning. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And we come to you every single day for some inspiration, some motivation to get you through the day, the week, the month, the year. And we are in a new year, guys. We're in a new year. And in fact, today is a pivotal day because it is January 20th, the day that we inaugurate a brand new president.
Today's the day. It's actually going down today.
It's going down. It's going down.
Want to miss it.
And this is the day where he's going to cast vision and take us into the next 4 years. Some of you are very hopeful. Some of you feel helpless. But guess what? We will get through this. There were times when we had Democratic presidents, Republican presidents. We've gone back and forth, but yet we're still standing. And it's also an opportunity for us to come together as a nation. We're in a day and time where things like this have never happened before, where the nation's been divided on such a level. But I believe in this country, and I believe in the people and what we can do when we put certain issues behind us. All right, so listen, before we get started, we just want to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Our handle is @Couples Academy. Also, this is a pivotal time because this weekend we're doing a last chance weekend. We got 6 couples from all over the country that are going to be joining us to transform their lives and restore their relationships.
I'm excited about that. Whenever we do it, we get this energy and we're like, all right, we got to get this done. We got to help these couples see that there is hope for a better day, that they can overcome anything. And it's really awesome for them to catch those aha moments throughout the process. Many of them come into the last chance weekend with apprehension because it is a group intensive. And people aren't sure what to expect. They think they're going to have to sit in the middle of the circle and like hold hands and, confess all their sins to one another. And it really isn't like that. We have a process that allows each person to go through their own individual process privately while learning in a group environment. So it's really phenomenal.
And so maybe it's your turn. Maybe it's time for you. You've been vacillating back and forth. Do I do it? Do I not? We actually have another one coming up in February on the 19th through the 21st. So make sure you call coupleacademy.org. Call us at 678-200-8996 or go on couplesacademy.org and set up a free discovery call. But we're going to jump into today's topic. We're excited. We'll be right back and go into the depths of what we're unpacking today. Be right back, guys. We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, founders of Couples Academy, a private practice dedicated to saving marriages around the world.
We're not just recognized authorities on relationships. We're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission? To change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy show.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Couples Academy show, and we are excited about today's topic. We're talking about tough love, when enough is enough. And I want to thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the show, JG, Facebook user, Danae, a faithful miss. And all of you guys, we just really appreciate you. When you jump in, just make sure you type, hey, I'm here, I'm from, and tell us where you're from. We love to see all the folks that are dialing in and calling in and watching in from all over the world. We really appreciate you. So we're going to jump into the topic today.
Let's get it. Listen, guys, tough love when enough is enough. It's important for us to realize when we're in an unhealthy relationship that needs some course correcting immediately. Now, many people struggle with this whole idea of tough love because we're supposed to have compassion and we're supposed to be empathetic and we're supposed to continue to give the person the benefit of the doubt, and all of those things are absolutely true. But the reality is some people just don't course correct. Some people don't get it.
Time after time.
There it is. And they think, well, obviously if they're compassionate and empathetic and willing to give me another chance as I continue to produce the same bad behaviors and horrible results, then I got to pass. So I can continue to do it because there are no consequences. And the fact of the matter is, outside of a home, if you step into the world and you do something that is harmful, there is a consequence. And based upon the severity of the crime, that will determine the punishment. So if I go into a supermarket and maybe I steal a stick of gum and that's my first offense, okay, I'm going to get some type of punishment for that based upon that level of crime. But if I'm in a car and I'm driving recklessly and I get into an accident and people die, I'm going to have a more severe punishment.
Absolutely.
Right? And so likewise, I think in relationships, we don't have any type of punishment reward system. And I think it's important because what it does, it keeps us all in place. And we're going to unpack what that looks like today when we talk about this topic. So the first point that we want to talk about is tough love is about addressing truthful, harmful behavior. You got to address the behavior. And so some people, they're dealing with infidelity. Some people are dealing with porn or maybe substance abuse, verbal abuse. There's domestic violence within the home. It's just a negative, contentious relationship that continues to go bad. And what happens is the person who is the victim, if you will, in this situation, doesn't know how to show up. They don't address, they don't articulate. Maybe they're dealing with someone who has such a domineering personality, they don't feel like they have a safe space to do it. So they suffer in silence. They begin to have internal conversations with themselves. They will even have conversations with their support group, their network, but dare they ever articulate what's going on to the person who's causing it within the household, it would be a major problem. So they just suppress it. They never address the harmful behavior. And if you're going to get tough, you don't have to have a nasty conversation. You don't have to be mean and surly, but you've got to be able to address the issues, and you got to do it.
And I think it's much better when you don't get mean and surly and turn it into an argument and actually come to the person calm, cool, and collected and say, hey, look, these are the things that you're doing. And be prepared, have it ready to go. These are the things that you're doing that I'm seeing that are actually harming you and harming me and harming our family. And let me explain to you how. And to your point, oftentimes we really don't have that kind of an audience with our spouse if we're in a situation where this conversation has to be had. Oftentimes there's no audience for that. And so you get shut down before you get through the front door of the conversation, And so what we're wanting to do is maybe come with one strong, powerful thing that is really impactful. Knowing your partner, knowing the things that they've been striving to accomplish, or maybe things that they said that they've been wanting to do in the past. Like, you know what, this is the new year, I'm gonna stop drinking, whatever it is. And I know that's a tough one, you need support with that. But these are the reasons why you need to stop this. This is how it's affecting me and how it's affecting the family. And that's the beginning, because you need to move to the next one, which talks about having self-confidence and your own self-reliance. Because what ends up happening, you begin to doubt yourself that anything could ever change, that what you're saying is even a reality. You find yourself questioning your own behavior. Like, am I being controlling? Yep. Like we talked about yesterday, right? When there's somebody in your life that keeps on, crossing those boundaries and bringing unsafe, catastrophic issues into your world, and you just don't know what to do. Sometimes you lose your self-confidence, but you need to find that wherewithal. And it really is having a healthy sense of ego, right? Being able to make strong decisions and having a confidence to know that your decision is the right thing overall. It's not always about what's right for me, but when we look at the big picture in the situation, what's right for the marriage, what's right for the family.
Absolutely. The next point that I think is important to realize, that tough love is about being grounded, okay? And what that means is, have you ever heard the expression, man, you're so heavenly minded that you're earthly no good? Well, it's about over spiritualizing what's happening. See, you have to have a sound mind. The Bible says that he's given us a sound mind, not a spirit of fear. And so using this sound mind, we have to make decisions and think through difficult things. But either we over spiritualize because we don't want to deal with it, or we stick our head in the sand and we want to ignore that it's there. And a lot of times people who stick their head in the sand struggle with acceptance, accepting that this is their reality, accepting that they've got to do something about it. And sometimes we're waiting for someone to come and save us. We're waiting for someone to knock on our door and say, hey, I'm here to help. What do you need me to do? But the reality is you're going to have to get up off your feet, put one foot in front of the other, and do what's necessary to walk through a process of your own healing and restoration and make difficult decisions. We're talking about tough love because the truth is many of us are weak. We are weak. And because we're weak and we don't know how to make decisions for ourselves and we don't know how to get unstuck, we remain in these situations. Now, am I saying that it's our fault? Am I victimizing the victim? Absolutely not. We're talking about a relational pattern and dynamic. And if your partner is exhibiting bad behavior and you are complicit to that behavior, you have to understand there's a role that both of you have to play to get out of that negative pattern. Pattern recognition is looking at where it starts, where it continues, because patterns are nothing more than habits repeated again and again and again. And if you can't get your partner to change, then tough love is making the decision to change yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can't get your partner to change, then you must change. And people don't seem to think that that really is the secret sauce in general. We say it all the time. When we decided to change ourselves, that's when the marriage changed. As long as I was trying to change the other person, it was like we were just in this battle back and forth. So you always have that freedom. Like, never convince yourself that you are, helpless. You're never helpless as long as you can control yourself. And then the next one we want to go to, which kind of feeds into that, is that tough love is about having and knowing your boundaries. And having strong and correct boundaries. And, there are compassion keepers out there that really, put a lot of emphasis on care and support and the unconditional love part of it. And I don't think that one is without the other. I think that you can have unconditional love and be compassionate and still have very strong boundaries that support your needs and the overarching needs of the couple and the family. Because there's a lot of times when you're dealing with somebody that really is going through some things, they are unaware of how they're affecting everyone else around them. And this is why we have these interventions. And I think we talked about this the other day, knowing your values, understanding what your values are, because a lot of times couples have different values. And that's why they show up to Couples Academy, because one of them displayed some actions that was not in alignment with the shared values that they thought that they had, right? And so these boundaries say, okay, you crossed the line here. We were supposed to have a closed, committed, and faithful marriage,
yes,
right? And you stepped outside of the marriage, and so now there must be consequences. Those boundaries allow you to understand what the consequences need to be. And I think that's a big issue within some of these couples, is that they never did establish boundaries. And so anything can go. And now they're kind of trying to figure out where do I draw the line in all of this? What's okay for me? What's okay for this marriage?
Consequences, that sounds so scary. But think about it. A parent to a child, when a child violates or breaks a law or disobeys a rule of the house,
sure.
Well, you have to have consequences. Otherwise, you're teaching that child that everything's okay and they can continue to get away with it. And as you always say, right, Danielle, we're raising adults. So what children are allowed to do in their household, they learn lessons. Oh, this must be okay. I don't have any consequences, so I could take the same behavior outside of the home. And then they're hit with the tough reality because there are consequences in the world. So why would your relationship, your romantic relationship with each other, not have consequences? And so in essence, we're talking about establishing government with laws, because when there are no laws, it is lawless, and anything can go.
And here's the thing, depending on your family dynamics, your relationship, your boundaries will be very different from maybe Hassani and I, because every relationship is different. We don't get into the details of that, right? But we do look at the relationship and say, okay, because of this scenario and this situation, here is a strong and proper boundary that you can set here. But that's going to be different for each person. Like there are blended families. Think about that, the dynamics of a blended family. How do you deal with the ex-wife or the ex-husband? How do you handle the children, right? All of those things come into play, but those boundaries have to be there so that there is some law in your marriage.
Absolutely. We have a couple comments. Natasha says, sometimes boundaries are seen as rejection. I think it's a manipulative tactic. So I don't know if you see it as rejection. I don't know if the person who's feeling rejected, you think that's the manipulative tactic. But I think that, it goes back to this. Money, it's neither good or evil, right? It's the application of it. It's the love of it that makes it evil. I heard, matter of fact, one of my favorite quotes, and I want you to hear this. Someone once said, a grape can be used for medicinal purposes. A grape can be used for its nutritional value, but that same grape, given a certain spin, given a certain twist, can be used to do great harm. So it's not what you use, but how you use what you use. Not where you get it from, but what you do with it once you get it. So, boundaries in and of itself can be very harmful depending upon the motive and the intent of the person who's instituting them. Or it can be the best thing for your relationship because what it does is it prevents continuous bad behavior.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. There are some instances where, we're talking about when enough is enough here, guys, right? And a lot of times we get to the end of the road and enough is enough, and we have never set a boundary. We have let everything go for years and years and years. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, if I don't do something now, nothing's going to get done. And so there's a way to set these boundaries. There's a way to have these conversations where you're not getting into an altercation, or you do your best not to get into an altercation. But at the end of the day, you stand your ground about things. And there are so many examples that can be given of areas of our marriage, depending on what has gone on, especially in the case of infidelity, where boundaries must be set. I'll give you a quick example now. Right now, Hassani and I have great freedom between us. I don't have any concerns about what he might be doing, who he might be talking to on the phone, where he might be going. But if tomorrow I were to find out that when Hassani was coming and going with all of that freedom, he was talking to another woman, having an affair with another woman, that would change overnight. I would need to set boundaries. I would need to know where he's going. I would need to know when he's coming back. Who are you talking to? I would like to see what's on your phone. Do you see how things change? We can't expect that we get to do whatever we want in our marriages to each other, and there's no repercussions of that. And that's what we're talking about here.
And I'm glad you said that. So let's clarify boundaries. You either A, are placing boundaries around the marriage, right? So let's take a play out of President Trump's book. He wanted to build a wall around the country, right? So that prevents people from going out and people from coming in. And there needs to be a wall built around your marriage so that it stops all inappropriate behaviors with those outside for a period of time. What's happening is we're putting up our own personal boundaries and building a wall in between us, and oftentimes that wall is made of bricks built, and those bricks are made of resentment and unforgiveness and bitterness and everything else that creates further disconnect. And so number one, let's protect our marriage from the outside world, but then within the context of our relationship, let's talk about what we need to do to build walls, healthy walls within. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk more about this. This is getting good. I see your comments, guys. Let's go. We'll be right back in just a second. This is the Couples Academy Show. Sign up today for the Better Marriage Club and receive exclusive access to the private Facebook group to get your questions answered and your problems solved. Access to our marriage library of live seminars. Watch the Couples Academy Daily Show. Call the help hotline for laser coaching. Get our weekly action guides and receive a private one-on-one call with one of our marriage coaches. To join the Better Marriage Club, simply text MARRIAGE to 973-490-4668. Join today. Your marriage deserves it. Guys, hopefully that was helpful for you to find out more about what we need to be doing to take our relationships to the next level. So the Last Chance Weekend is what you want to sign up for to get things started for your relationship.
There's a question here from Kia. She says, how do you build boundaries without feeling like you are policing someone? And you know what I would say is that in most cases, you want to actually sit down with the person and have an amicable conversation about these boundaries that need to be set. We do this. I think the word boundaries is triggering for a lot of people, right? We like to use another term where we say government for your home. This is how we establish government in our home, right? Because without government, there is lawlessness. So if you think of it like that, it's more of a conversation that you're having with your spouse. Hey, these are the things that we see. Let's get these things in order and come to an agreement on how we're going to handle these things, right? But then there are sometimes when you actually are policing. You're policing your life. When somebody has infringed upon your boundaries, disrespected you, shown you no regard in any way, that's when you get to the point when enough is enough. And you've got to set these boundaries, as Hassani said, to protect yourself. And that's what we're talking about. When you get to the end of the road, one of the last things we talked about yesterday was when some relationships get to that point where it is the breaking point. As much as Hassani and I work very hard with couples to do everything, give you every trick, every tip in the book to do the thing, not everybody's going to do the thing, right? What good is all the information and all the knowledge if you just sit there and look at it and don't apply it into your life? And so some relationships do get to the breaking point, and there's a process for that. And one of those things is the first step is to get yourself into some good counseling so that you can be guided. But these boundaries begin to set some parameters around yourself so that you can get your life, get your head, get grounded, build self-confidence so that you can take next steps.
You know, Dr. Miles Monroe, who I love, he still teaches me from the grave. He's no longer with us, but he had such a powerful quote where he said, people with character don't need police. They lock themselves up in the prison of their own convictions and throw away the key.
That's good.
And so we're talking about character and integrity based upon a value system that you both establish. So another way of looking at boundaries is we need to, as a couple, set proper expectations for what is allowable and doable and healthy for this relationship. We need a relational code of ethics, because if I'm living by one code and you're living by another, it's going to be a problem. You understand what I'm saying? So think about it. You join the military, you join any type of force, there is a code to live by. Well, why should there not be a code for your relationship? And if both of you aren't willing to operate according to that code, that's when you need to establish proper boundaries in order to make things better. All right, we're going to go to the next point. Tough love is about compassion. Now, let's talk about that. Because if you are abusing me, or if you are exhibiting behaviors that are unhealthy for this dynamic, I'm going to set some boundaries and let you know what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do for my own sanity. But I'm going to have compassion, because I'm going to realize, you know what, something's wrong with you. Maybe there's something you're struggling with. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to offer that you get some personal help, seek a mentor, get a minister, join a program. Listen, I will be here to support you in your journey to become your best you. But there's certain areas of our relationship that we're going to shut down. A question came in similar to the one you just read. Well, what do consequences look like, right? So think about it. If there's been infidelity, right? Well, for a period of time, the boundary is everything shutting down. No nookie up in here, because I can't see any type of control that you have by not having nookie with people outside of this marriage. So for a period of time, that's coming to a halt.
That's a boundary, because now I got to protect my safety, my health. I mean, it's important. You have to have these boundaries. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but it makes me just think of some of the marriages out here where, you know, the spouse is in and out of the street, right? And still wanting to come back. And you have thought that this was a thing to do. Like, okay, let me open up my body to this person, because maybe that can save my relationship. And it doesn't. What it does is it sends a clear message to them that this is acceptable to you, and I can continue to do that and jeopardize your health at the same time. That, my friend, is a very healthy boundary to set, but doesn't necessarily mean that we're in agreement.
Exactly. But if I give you more of me, maybe that'll take away the temptation for you to be with somebody else. If I cook more, if I do, like we think of, okay, all the things that we need need to do more of, and we lean further in, and that may not work for that particular person. That person may say, wow, I'm really getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Right? I get to have a mistress over here, and I get the best of you here. No. Like, let's talk about another boundary. Let's just say you are always in drag out fights and just horrible communication patterns with your spouse. Well, a boundary is once your tone goes up, once you start to call me out of my name, once you start screaming and yelling, conversation's over. Listen, I want to engage in you, but I'm not going to allow you to continue to treat me like this because I'm teaching you that it is okay. That's a boundary.
Absolutely.
That's a boundary. And so it's about getting on the same page. All right, let's go to the next point.
The next point is tough love is about becoming strong. And I think that's a really good one because oftentimes we allow ourselves to become the doormat, so to speak, because we think that we can't do any better. Or, what would I do without this person? And what we have to recognize is that our strength is from within, and that our supplier is not our spouse, right? When we know who our help comes from, we know that without that person in our lives, we still are going to be able to make it okay. We have to get to a point where we are okay losing some things that are not healthy for us. We got to get to that point that if I set this strong boundary, and I think that's where people really get weak, that I set this boundary and I said, listen, we have done this 3 times in the case of infidelity, okay? And I have forgiven you and we have gone through the process. And if there's an infidelity one more time, I'm walking away, right? You are within your right to do that. And that's a strong boundary to set and keep. But that's why you need to find your strength so that if that were to occur, that you would have the strength to do what is necessary to walk away.
And I think that's an amazing point because oftentimes we hear it. He did it again. He did it again. She keeps cheating. We know couples. Yes. We know couples where one partner has literally cheated throughout the entire relationship, and they keep doing it. And I don't care what side of the offense. What I'm ultimately saying is there are women who do that, sure, and there are men who do that, and they may do it for different reasons. But if nothing changes in you, how can you expect something to change in your partner? And I think we are always pointing the finger, trying to control, going back to control, because if you keep doing something that I don't want you to do, if I can control you, then maybe you'll stop. But if the only way that I can get you to stop is by me controlling you, then I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to control you. That's just insanity.
No, and we don't have to feel like we're always giving up our control. Because I hear that a lot too. Like every time I try to get on the right track, they do this again, they do that, they do that. As if you're powerless to make a decision. One thing that we always say to couples when they're going through the tough seasons of recovery, because there are seasons, right? Is that let's remember that you decided to stay. You decided to see if this can work out. You wanted to recover this marriage. So you actually are a huge part of why we're here. And as long as you've made the decision to stay, that means that you have a choice and you have control.
And let's go to the last point because that's a great transition. Tough love is about having courage to take action even when you are scared. I heard someone once say, I think it was Bob Proctor, when your goal is big enough, that's when you're scared and excited all at the same time. And here's the reality. Some of you have to make decisions, but you get trapped in fear, and fear stifles you. Fear keeps you from doing what it is that you know you need to do. One thing one of my mentors said, he said that every human being struggles with 2 things, fear and insecurity, okay? Because we all have it. He said successful people realize that fear's not going anywhere, the insecurity's not going anywhere, but I have to do something in spite of it. People who are unsuccessful are waiting for the fear and insecurity to go away before they do something. It may never go away, folks. It may never go away, but that shouldn't keep you from making decisions for your good, for your betterment. And so when you have a support system, when you've had somebody to wrestle these ideas back and forth with, you may feel some type of way. It may be scary, but you've got to put your foot down and make decisions that are best for you. Taking these steps allows you to be tough. Truth be told, many of us are weak. We're weak. and we don't have the ability to make, and that's why we're scared that it's going to happen again, because if it happens again, I don't know what I'm going to do in that moment, because I haven't built. And that's why we don't make decisions for people, but what we do is we help you to become the best version of yourself, so you're operating from a different vibration. If you're operating in weakness and insecurity, you're going to make decisions based upon what's going on within you internally. But when you become strengthened and you have proper insight and you have a spiritual foundation, you're going to make a very different decision. And so we're all about you becoming the best version of yourself so that you can have the best relationship that you can have.
Powerful. Absolutely. Nothing to add to that, but amen.
So guys, let me just say this. If you're here saying, this is what I needed to hear, I'm out, then you're not hearing this correctly.
Got the wrong message.
What we're telling you is get tough, get strong, be who God has created you to be. Step into your greatest potential. We say that the key to your marital restoration is your personal transformation. And so, guys, we encourage you to listen to this again and again and again. Take notes. Find out where you are. Do something. Don't let divorce be the first instinct that you have. Take all the necessary steps. Rob yourself of any excuse as to why this can't happen. So hope you enjoyed today's show. We will see you in the morning for another great episode. Love you guys.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you're interested in one of our restoration programs, contact us today at couplesacademy.org.